Ashley.
And I'm Brooks.
And we wanted to make a video just talking about our IVF journey. It's been exactly a year since we started our IVF journey. And I'm currently 38 and a half weeks pregnant, so you're probably wondering how the heck we got from starting our IVF journey a year ago to where we are now. We wanted to make this video not only to spread awareness about infertility, but also just have something for us to kind of look back on and just shed light more on this topic, because it was a pivotal moment in our life and something that really changed us. So hopefully our video can help other people out there who are struggling or just have questions about what IVF looks like, and hopefully it gives you a little bit of hope as well. So we met in 2011 on the first day of college, and we've been together ever since. We've been together 11 years. We got married in 2017, so it's been 5 years this year. So yeah, we met in Duluth, Minnesota. We lived in Madison, Wisconsin for the last 6 years, and that's where our IVF journey started, and now we're back in Duluth where everything began. So it's kind of a full circle life experience for us. So we started trying to grow our family beginning of 2020, and I got off the pill and just assumed that things would work like we're taught in school. I remember getting off the pill and literally a couple weeks later just buying a pregnancy test and taking it and just being like, this is how it works, you just get pregnant. And I just kept getting negative tests, and I was just like, what the heck is happening? This isn't how we're taught. And it's really sad to think about that version of myself. I wish I could hug her now. So we just kept trying for months and months and months, and then the pandemic hit, and obviously there was a lot of stress. So I think for me, I was like, this just has something to do with all the stress that we're going through. I never got my period back. So I started going and seeing my OB, and she was just doing tests with me for months, and nothing, my body just wasn't really seeming to be working. I wasn't getting my cycle back, I wasn't ovulating, so basically all of the things that you need to have happen in order to get pregnant. So I was just this whole time thinking that something was just wrong with my body, and I was just, we were frustrated and not sure what was going on. I just got done at the clinic getting my blood drawn, just to get my hormone levels checked, to see if I possibly ovulated this month, or just to make sure all my levels are. It's been about 8 months now since we started trying, so they just want to make sure everything looks kind of normal. So fingers crossed, and hopefully things start looking up from here. And then it was about 7 months in, and they always tell you you have to wait a whole year in order to see someone in the fertility clinics, and I just felt like something was wrong, and so I just started advocating for myself, and I was like, you know what, nothing, there's no forward progress, we should see someone else. So I advocated to see a fertility clinic earlier than a year, and we ended up getting referred to a fertility clinic in Madison, Wisconsin, and they just started doing all sorts of tests with me. At one point they diagnosed me with PCOS, and again, I just thought it was something wrong with my body. And then after all sorts of tests for me, the final test was just to do an HCG, I think that's what it's called. Which basically is just a procedure where they go in and check your fallopian tubes and make sure that everything is working fine in there. And I remember sitting in the office waiting to go in for my procedure. Brooks had driven me to the clinic, and he was just sitting in the parking lot waiting, and he couldn't come in because of COVID. And he had gotten like his testing done.
Yeah. So if you back up a step, we had to get testing done, or I had to get testing done because of insurance. They wouldn't basically let her go past a certain point because if it was a male factor and we didn't get checked, they wouldn't pay for anything. Or it was some sort of money thing, like get Brooks checked too before we go forward.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's where we were at there.
Yeah. So Brooks like did his sperm sample, and we hadn't got the results back yet, and so I was sitting in the office about ready to go in for this procedure, obviously already feeling all sorts of nerves. It's not a pleasant procedure, and the doctor came in and just kind of looked at me and was like we just got your husband's results back, and like,
can you come in?
Well, no, she was like, they're not good, and I was like, well, like, what do you mean? And she was like, everything, like, it just all came back zeros. Like, we didn't find anything, like, in his analysis. And I was like, okay, like, I had never even heard of this being a thing. And so she was like, yeah, we'll talk more about it. So went in, did my procedure. Everything looked normal, luckily. And then we went back to her office, and again, she just was like, yeah, like, just let your husband know. And I was like, no, like, he needs to come in. Like, how? I am not going to walk into the parking lot and, like, tell him this news. Like, I was in complete shock. So then I was like, can I have Brooks come in? And then that's when he came in. So.
Yeah, and it was just, like, confusing because I just drove her there. And so then I was the one getting the results at the end of it. Yeah. So it was a little different.
Yeah, we were not expecting that at all. So our doctor was just like, okay, let's do a second analysis just to make sure it's not like a fluke or something. So you did another analysis, and I don't remember if they called us or whatever. But again, it came back with just like zeros across the board. And I don't know like how all of that works, but you're supposed to have like millions of sperm, not zero. So we were just like crushed and didn't even know like how to process things. And at the time we just kind of were told, these are your numbers, and then we would just have to like constantly wait for the next appointment. Yeah. And that was just awful to just sit there for like weeks on end, just not knowing like what our future held and what options we had.
In retrospect, we moved along the process really fast.
Yeah.
Like once we knew what everything like was and what we needed to do, we actually moved pretty quick. But yeah, it was like just waiting on appointments, waiting on them to tell us what was like the next step kind of thing.
Yeah. So then next steps were for me, everything like they checked all my boxes. They were like, okay, like, you're obviously having issues with ovulating and like that kind of thing, but everything physically was looking fine. Like my uterus was fine, like my tubes were fine, everything was fine. So then it was all like, okay, now we need to check more on Brooks's results and see what those numbers meant. So then he had all sorts of
fun tests,
different tests and procedures, just to kind of see like what was going on. And then they found kind of like something at one of your ultrasounds.
So basically at an ultrasound and after feeling around, they determined and could feel that there was no vas deferens. And so the only way to go about figuring out if you were able to retrieve sperm with no vas deferens is through a procedure called a MESI or a TESI. I don't know what they mean.
Well, and also, if for those of you who don't know what vas deferens is, because I didn't pay that much attention in health class. Basically, he was born with like a vasectomy. A permanent vasectomy kind of thing.
Yeah, so. And it's due to I was born with one kidney too. For people that don't know us or are watching this, so it's a correlation with that. Apparently, a lot of men that are infertile find out they don't have a kidney because of the same situation.
Yeah, it all develops at the same time, like in.
Yeah, right in there.
Right now. So something skipped a step there. Yeah. So from there we scheduled Brooks's surgery. And at this point it was a surgery that we were scheduling literally just to like pray that they could find living sperm. And so, yeah, originally, like, they were saying it would be months.
They go in blind, yeah. To the surgery, you go in blind not knowing if it will work for sure. It's kind of exploratory in nature. And then to get in, because of COVID and just everything, it was supposed to be months and months. But we put ourselves on a call list for cancellations and got in like under a month.
Yeah.
And so it sped up our process because it was supposed to be like 6 months from the day we kind of found out to now like 20 days. So
yeah, and I guess just like catch you up too on our timelines. Like we started trying the beginning of 2020, got referred to at the fertility clinic in like late summer 2020. Started doing like all my tests there throughout the fall, and then Brooks found out kind of end of 2020 about like this possible or the male factor infertility. And then
February.
Yeah, and then he was supposed to go in, I think, for surgery May of 2021, and we ended up getting it moved up to February of 2021.
And then to back up or just catch up on that part too is we knew at this point that our only option for children was through IVF at this point.
Yeah.
And the only option for children using my sperm is through the surgery at this point as well. So it was a pretty big surgery for us to go through, but it happened so fast we didn't really have time to like really understand how big of a surgery it was for us.
Yeah, and I'll like never forget dropping you off at the surgery clinic and just being like, this is it. Like this is our, I don't, in a couple hours, like we'll know if this will work. And it was just a lot of pressure on everyone, I feel like. So I remember them calling me, and I remember his doctor just being like, it was successful, like we were able to find living sperm, which was just like such a relief. And I don't know if you want to talk about like you got a couple like tubes that were frozen.
Yeah, so 3 vials of sperm basically, and each vial can be used in 1 round of IVF. And so that gave us 3 round chances for using mine at least, yeah. Yeah.
And then they like freeze it, and then they had to kind of like thaw it and make sure that like they would survive for IVF. It was just like this whole, oh my gosh, roller coaster of a process. So anyhow, we were just so grateful that the surgery was successful, because that was literally our only option at Biological Children between the 2 of us. So from there, we were obviously celebrating, and that was a relief. And then our IVF journey, I guess, started after that. So then that was February 2021. We were able to start our IVF journey in April of 2021. So literally like
later.
a year ago, like this week, we started everything, which is just kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And I know when we originally went into the clinic, they said it could be like even more, like even longer to wait. And we just were like, please just like put us on your list. It's so hard, I think, to be in a situation where literally like your life and like when you want to start having a family is based on when there's like an opening at a clinic. Like it's just a weird thing to wrap your head around, to just have a scheduler just be like, this is what we have, like this is when you can start trying for your family. And like most people our age just get to just choose. So that was a weird thing, I think, for me. And then at the time, we had just rebooked a Maui trip that we had booked like 3 times because of COVID. I remember like calling the clinic and being like, do we still go? And they were like, yes, like go, and then we'll just like start IVF afterwards. And so we like went on our last like trip before the craziness started. And so I think that was a nice just like...
Yeah, I'd recommend if you're going to do it, go on a trip.
Just like before.
Well, the hard part for us too is the money, like, because it costs a lot to do IVF in our situation, and so we were like, should we even go because of the money? We had already paid for it, but we could get it back, and so that was hard too. Yeah.
So, so then we came back, and we literally started like right away. I had ordered my medication before we left for our trip, and when we came back, it was like literally 2 days later, and it was like go time. And so our first IVF round, we just like went into it like thinking like, okay, like
Shots.
this is gonna work, and like this is like the steps that you take. You have to go through like a counseling session to like make sure that like you're mentally.
So you know what to do if you get too many embryos and things like that. Just mentally it's a drain. So they want to make sure you're in that kind of good headspace, I guess, and know more about what to expect and have someone to talk to as well.
Yeah, so then we started the injections, and I was nervous about them. I couldn't do it myself. I like had Brooks do them, and I don't know. I'm sure that was hard for you too, because
it's a commitment, and you're poking someone you love.
Yeah.
For good cause.
So we that basically looked like injections that were essentially hormones that were getting my body ready for an egg retrieval, which was the first step. So that lasted about 2 weeks. I remember going in for ultrasounds every other day.
Count follicles.
To count the number of follicles. Yeah, because essentially you're manipulating your body to grow all these follicles and grow them really big, and that's definitely not what happens in like normal life, not IVF life. So I remember going in, I remember like everything was going really smoothly. I don't remember how many follicles, I think it was like 25 to 30 they were counting.
No, they need to be a certain size.
Yeah, they have to be a certain size. You're getting them measured every other day and making sure that, you know, things are growing as they should. They kind of alter your medication and up it like based on how things are growing. So we just learned a lot about the human body throughout this whole process. We also had like an amazing support system from our family and friends, like, because it really was a huge time commitment. Like I had to be home at like a certain time and like get your medications ready at a certain time. Like everything was very like timed out. So if for some reason Brooks couldn't do it, like we were also living with your parents at the time.
It's a whole other story.
Like, oh yeah. So we had a lot of amazing support systems through that. So and then from there was the egg
first round, right?
Yeah. So this is still first round, and we went in for my egg retrieval. Going into it, we had like
16. We were expecting like 16 eggs. Wasn't it?
I think we're expecting like around
16 that were the right size.
Yeah, 16 eggs that were supposed to be like mature and the right size. So I went in for surgery, came out, and I remember them.
You don't want to talk about your
No?
Okay.
Yeah, I just had a bad experience with the IV, but we don't need to talk about that. It was just a traumatic, like, pre-surgery, but it's fine. So, anyhow, I came out, and, like, obviously the first thing that you want to ask, like, when you get out of surgery is, like, how many eggs do we get? And I remember the nurse telling us 8, and I just, like, immediately started crying because numbers are everything in the IVF journey. Like, you want to have like as many high numbers as possible starting off, because they're just going to decrease as you keep going. Yeah,
it's a world when your numbers are like there, or you think you have a number, and then they can just like every time they say a number, it seems like it goes down by half at least.
Yeah. So,
or more in that case.
So they retrieved 8, and you go home the same day, and it's just from there a huge waiting game. Like, you just have to wait for phone calls.
Because they fertilize the eggs the same day.
Yeah, so they take my eggs, and we used the ICSI procedure, which is essentially where they take one of my eggs, they take the sperm that Brooks had retrieved, one vial, and they like thaw it. And then they like actually like physically like inject the egg with one of his sperm. And so I'm trying to think of how many I had that were mature.
I think it was like 8 eggs.
I think 8 were mature.
8 were mature.
Yeah, so the 8 that they retrieved were mature, which we were grateful for, because sometimes they can retrieve them and they're just like not mature, ready to be fertilized. So they attempted to fertilize all 8 of my eggs, and we got the call, was it the next day?
About
how many fertilized. And that was 4. Mm-hmm. So 4 out of 8 fertilized, which was also a huge shock, because that's 50%. And I think we were hoping for 80%.
I think that's like the average.
Yeah. So 80% is like average in terms of how many fertilize, and we got 50%. So we were.
And when we say average, that could be for our clinic too.
Yeah.
I don't know exact numbers, but
Yeah. So 4 out of 8 had fertilized, and then from there we had to wait 5 or 6 days to see which fertilized eggs matured into embryos. And they have to make it to day 5 or 6, otherwise they're not viable for a transfer. So we waited and waited and prayed and just crossed our fingers, and we were like thinking we would get a phone call on the results, and we didn't. We got a message and I opened it. I just remember opening it, and all it said was no embryos were viable for transfer. Mm-hmm. So we went from 8 eggs, 4 fertilizing, to none of them making it. So we were literally at square one. Like it just didn't work at all. So I will never forget that day. I don't know. Okay. I don't want to open it.
Just open it.
Well, we had egg retrieval on Friday. We had 8 eggs retrieved, 4 out of 8 fertilized. So we are going to find out how many made it. I'm scared.
Why do we find out through text?
I know. I don't know how to look at it.
Just look, it might not even be that. Let me see, I want to read it too. Are you serious? It sucks.
What are your thoughts on that day?
Oh yeah, it was like a complete shock. Like you don't expect it, because again that number of 0 is another big percentage. I think it's like 1 or 2% of people will get 0, so it's another big number shock to us.
Yeah, I mean, we were like not expecting the outcome. Like no one had in our counseling sessions at the clinic, like they were never preparing us for that.
They prepared us for too many, but not for 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was just a complete shock in so many ways. Like you go through so much physically, it's emotionally draining, it is financially draining. You have to pay for all the procedures, all of the medications, like insurance doesn't cover any of it. And so it was just an awful time. Like it was just, I don't even know. It was crushing, I guess, is like the right word. Like I feel like we had kind of, taken like 2 steps forward, and then it was just, crazy. So from there we just like took some time to kind of grieve those results. Not a lot of time. I mean, when I say
she wanted to get going right away.
Yeah.
No, she didn't care about money or anything.
Well, I definitely cared about that, but I mean, it's also like you don't want to go through any of that again. So we took some time to grieve, but then knowing me, I was just like, okay, like we can either let this crush us or we can use this to like push forward. So we pushed forward.
And we talked to our clinic right away too.
Yeah.
And it was hard because we didn't know if we'd want to stay with the same clinic or try a different one. We knew we wanted to do it again. And so after meeting with them, they kind of had a game plan of what we could do differently.
From there, we met with our doctor just to kind of like review kind of what could have happened and like what percentage of people does this happen to. And that was just a super interesting appointment because they had shared, because of our like health and our young age, that like 1 to 2% of people like have this happen. So of course we were like back to that like crappy numbers situation, and on top of it, I forgot that they ended up finding out that my egg quality was poor, like through the egg retrieval, which I was just like, you wouldn't know that unless you went in for surgery, and so that was shocking too.
And vial sperm isn't as successful either.
Yeah, like frozen sperm obviously is not going to be as successful because it goes through a lot, and so we had kind of all these things against us, and I'll never forget also like reading our follow-up appointment back from, or our follow-up notes from that appointment, and like our doctor just being like, it's possible that like you guys might need to just consider adoption based on like your circumstances, and nothing against adoption. I think it's an amazing choice for people, but it just wasn't something that was on our minds at that point, and not something that we were wanting to pursue. So from there, we just, said, how can we move forward? And, fortunately, I guess we were able to learn from the experience. No one ever wants to go through this multiple times, but we decided to just try again.
They got us in pretty quick again to start.
Well, originally not. Originally it was going to be
not again.
It was going to be a couple of months, and that was just really hard for me to hear because
we were going to be moving potentially.
Yeah, there was just a lot going on in our personal lives, and also again, it's just another like person telling you like, nope, like you can't try to start your family again until this point, and it was just hard. So we ended up getting a call, I think like the next day. And they had asked me, like, when do you get your period again? And I was like, well, I got it today. And they were like, oh my gosh, like, we can put you on the books to start again, like, this month, which was in May of 2021. So our failed egg retrieval was April of 2021. And then we started our second IVF cycle in the end of May. So it was really, like, quick and back to back. So things we did different in the second round, we doubled my meds, which wasn't super fun, just knowing like going into it I had to like double all my hormones, but we were willing to do whatever. They put me on CoQ10, which was a vitamin that was supposed to help with my egg quality, because we found out again I had poor eggs, apparently poor egg quality. And then we changed like my eating habits a little bit, so kind of switched like more organic foods, just trying to like avoid any extra like chemicals, any extra hormones. And then the biggest thing that I did differently the second round was acupuncture. That was something that I like absolutely loved. We worked with someone in Madison who was specifically trained on infertility. So that was just super helpful to have another person on our team. And it was just kind of supposed to help with like my blood flow, and just also like it really helped with my stress levels as well. So that was just like anything to help with that was a plus. And so I worked with her all the way up until my transfer day in terms of acupuncture, and honestly like I feel like it was one of the bigger things besides the obvious of like medications that like really improved our chances. So.
And she also gave you that like herbal supplement and the like charcoal-y thing.
Yeah, so I was on like Chinese supplements, like some herb supplements that I didn't even like know any of the ingredients to. Ask your provider before you do that. I don't think I asked, I just did it.
Trust your acupuncturist.
Yeah. And then like I had some weird like heating thing that I would put on my stomach. It was like an incense kind of thing. It was like charcoal or something that I would like literally burn on my stomach. It didn't like burn my stomach, but anyhow, it was supposed to help with blood flow. So I was willing to do anything. So that's what we did different. Anything else?
No. That's pretty much it on that round.
So then from there, again, the injections started again. I think I was on one extra injection just to help with like my egg quality growth again. So that was again another 2 weeks. And I think with this round, we just like wanted to, again, try like anything we could. And I felt like it was a little bit different than the first round in the sense that like I was doing more, but I felt like my growth just was not as quick as like the first round. Like I remember going to appointments and just like feeling like we weren't making as much progress as quickly as the first time. That's our dog in the background if you can hear her. So we were kind of like feeling hopeless at one point, and then all of a sudden it just like turned a corner and everything seemed to like go in the right direction again.
Which was different. Our first round, it was like we were super confident with like the numbers of we were seeing prior to retrieval, where this was a little opposite the second round.
Yeah, but luckily we still made it to the egg retrieval date, and my pre-surgery experience was definitely a lot better, which was a plus. And then right after I got out of surgery, of course the first question was how many eggs did we retrieve, and luckily we were able to get 16 eggs this time, so we doubled it from our last time, which was exactly what we had hoped for. So yeah, we were just like ecstatic about those results, like just knowing that we did all these extra things and we like got exactly the results that we wanted. So
it worked.
Yeah, it worked. So out of the 16 eggs, we found out that 13 of them were mature, which was still a great number. And then we got the call the next day to find out how many fertilized. And that was a shock. So we ended up finding out that 5 of them fertilized, which was only 5 out of the 13, which was only 1 more than the first round, which was like just complete shocking. It was shocking to us just because we doubled our original number.
Yeah.
So we got the 1 extra and we just tried to focus on that. And then we had to wait again the 5 to 6 days to find out which of the embryos actually made it, and we luckily told them to call us with the results. And so on I think it was like day 6 after surgery, we got the call from the embryologist, and she finally said that it worked. And so 1 of our embryos made it out of all of them, and it ended up being really amazing quality, which was something that was also super shocking to us, just knowing that like 8 of all of the embryos that had tried to grow for us in both cycles didn't make it at all, and then the one that made it ended up being like
a good one,
a really good quality one. Like they graded it a 5BA, which in like IVF terms like really can't get much better than that. So we were just like over the moon excited for that. And then we were hoping to do a fresh transfer of the embryo, and unfortunately your levels, like your hormone levels, have to be exactly at a certain, I don't know, point, I guess. Like everything has to like be working exactly how they want it to be, and unfortunately my levels were off, and so we had to cancel the fresh transfer. And we always like laugh, or it just like baffles us how people who like are normally trying to get pregnant because there's just so many things that have to line up to like get it to work. So that was just, I don't know, kind of crazy for us. So we kind of like briefly grieved not being able to do the fresh transfer, but in all honesty, frozen transfers tend to have higher like or better results. So we were like, okay, we'll just focus on that. So we ended up having to wait to do a frozen transfer, which we had to wait 8 whole weeks for my body to actually like come back down to like a, I don't know, standard like level, or exactly where they wanted it. So we did 8 weeks of more medication, more injections to get my body ready. And so that was, we found out in June 2021 about our embryo, froze it, and then ended up getting to do the frozen transfer in August of 2021. So that was a crazy day, and it was August 10th of 2021 that we got to do our frozen embryo transfer of our 1 embryo. And it was just a really cool experience, and we just always talk about how, like, even though IVF is a really difficult journey and we wouldn't wish it on anyone, it is the coolest thing that we got to, like, see our baby at, like, the earliest stage of life. Like, so I was awake during the procedure And Brooks got to be in the room as well, and we got to see it with our own eyes and got to record it, and it was just like a really cool experience.
Yeah.
So I'm like losing my breath. I can't talk with her pushing up on me. So yeah, so from there we left the clinic and we were pregnant until proven otherwise. So with IVF, nothing is guaranteed. Like egg retrieval, like none of it, even like the transfer, it's not a guaranteed pregnancy. But we always talk about how like we felt so calm like after the transfer. Like I don't know, I didn't feel like stressed or worried that it would work, I guess, which do you think we would, because that was literally our only chance with the one embryo. So they also tell you not to do any pregnancy tests at all throughout like the 9-day wait. So you have to wait 9 days in order to see if you're actually pregnant through a blood test. And so they tell you not to test at home because you could get like false positives. But we tested, and so
How many days? 6 days after? 5 days?
6 days. I wanted to test it like 5 days, but Brooks made me wait till 6. So yeah, we tested at home. I took like 3 different types of pregnancy tests, and we recorded it. I should like post it on here. So we can do one at a time.
Sure.
I don't want to do it. I can't do it. It's still early, so it doesn't matter, but I'm just really freaking out. I can't. Will you do it?
What if you peed on it wrong?
Ready? I'm scared. I don't want to.
Why am I so nervous? It's a good plan. Is it the right one? Can you double check? Did you read the instructions? Let me see. It's pretty good. You can't really see it that good, but it's there.
Oh man.
Go.
No.
Here.
Positive. The first one came, I like looked at it and it was a super positive test. Like that was the first positive pregnancy test we've ever gotten, and it was just like so special and a day that we'll never forget. And I personally also wanted to do the pregnancy test at home because you get a lot taken from you through the IVF journey, and I didn't want a nurse to like tell me if I was pregnant. Like I still wanted that special moment with Brooks at home, and that's kind of like where our decision was around testing early. So we tested, and we were living with his parents at the time because we were still building our home, and it was really hard to like keep like a straight face around them because we obviously knew, and apparently we did not have good poker face because I think they like kind of had a sense that we had known. So we did end up telling like some close family and friends early, but then 9 days later, August 19th of 2021 was a special day because it was also
our anniversary.
Yeah,
wedding
so
anniversary.
Our 4th wedding anniversary, which to me just like gives me chills knowing that like we got to do our blood test and find out that we were for sure pregnant on our 4th wedding anniversary, which was just like a really special day. So so we did our test. We found out officially from the clinic that we were pregnant. And then of course there is more waiting in the process. We had to go back 2 days later to get another blood test to make sure that the numbers were doubling. So I think that was like the scarier test for me personally, just because like, yeah, you could get a positive pregnancy test, but like the growth of the baby was like what ensured that the pregnancy was viable. And so luckily it came back and it was doubled. And I think I was shooting a wedding that day and like got the call like in like while I was working, so it was just like a whirlwind of, we were just so busy. But yeah, and then from there we scheduled our 7-week ultrasound with our fertility clinic to make sure that baby was growing and like in the sac and the heartbeat was there. And we got to see the heartbeat for the first time, which was amazing. And then from there we had to go back 2 weeks later for our 9-week ultrasound again, to make sure that the pregnancy was still viable and growing, and luckily everything looked perfect. And so we officially graduated from our fertility clinic after the 9-week appointment, and that was just super surreal.
And still did shots up till 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Progesterone hip shots.
Yeah. So yeah, we graduated from the fertility clinic. That was super
9 weeks.
surreal because we like lived there basically, and like you get super close to your nurses and your doctors, and it was a very bittersweet day, but more sweet. And then after that, I had to do progesterone injections for 8 more weeks, up until I was
12 weeks pregnant.
Yeah, up until I was 12 weeks pregnant. So I guess at that point I'd already been doing them for quite a few weeks, but just to like ensure that baby was like getting all of the right hormones, because you're kind of like manipulating your body, I guess, into pregnancy, which is like sounds like a bad term, but like it's true, because your body like didn't know that it was pregnant before. And so anyhow, yeah, I did those injections up until 12 weeks. Those were the worst by far, but Brooks did a great job. I think I ended up getting comfortable doing them. They're like ones that go in your hip muscle, and I like literally was doing them in like the Quick Trip bathroom. So weird. Yeah. Like anywhere we could find to like do it, because it was like we were still on a time schedule. So yeah. So those we got done with, luckily, and that was also a scary point for us because like then you're just like trusting your body to like maintain this pregnancy. And I just remember like taking my last shot and being like, I hope like everything's okay, because you get so reliant on like all of these schedules, and so it was really weird to just like be pregnant and not have to worry about injections and all of that. So yeah, from there we went to a normal OB and started doing normal ultrasounds and appointments, and everything since then has been perfect. Again, I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant now. Some days it feels like it's flown by, and other days it feels like forever. Like when people say like, oh, you know, like 9-month pregnancy, I'm like, it feels like a 2-year pregnancy because we've been on this journey for so long.
Working for it, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like that was like most of everything from our second cycle. Yeah. And pregnancy. Yeah. And then we moved to back to Duluth after all of that too, and found out we were having a girl. And that was kind of a fun like thing to obviously find out too, because don't quote me, but I've heard and I've read that the like higher quality embryos like tend to have a higher chance of them being a boy, like 75% chance.
They told us that at the clinic too.
Yeah, like just like I don't know why, but the higher quality like 75% chance of it being a boy. So we found out it was a girl. We were like in total shock, and it was just super cool that like our one embryo that like fought for us was like this sweet girl.
Are you gonna open it for us? Hold the bottom. Okay. Put a hole.
Okay, ready?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Are you nervous?
I don't know.
Go. Oh! You're gonna
Yeah, so we cannot wait to meet her, and this whole journey has just been, I don't know, just a roller coaster, and I just can't believe that, like, we're so close to meeting her now. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a wild one.
Yeah. It was an experience that I would never wish upon anyone, but we always say that
We're thankful to have it.
yeah, we're so thankful to have had this opportunity. I know some people that don't even get this opportunity. And in retrospect, it's so easy for us to look back and be like, you know, like we wouldn't change anything and all of that, because there were times that I would never want to relive again. But I truly feel like this experience was just meant for us, like we were meant to kind of go through this, and I feel like we became better partners through it. I feel like we'll be better parents because of it. It's just something that I feel like will never leave my mind. Like, it's just, she's so special, and every pregnancy is so special, and but to us, like, this is just, it really is like an actual miracle, like when I think about everything that we went through to get to her. And so I'm just so excited for her to like know her story one day. And I don't know, I feel like for anyone who's going to go through IVF or going through infertility, everyone's journey is so different. Even though like everyone kind of takes similar steps, like I just like everyone's story is different, but I just hope that, you know, with the crappy odds that we got and just like everything that we went through from the ups and the downs, that our story gives other people hope to keep going, and it's all worth it in the end. So
Well said.
Any other advice you'd give anyone?
Advice? No, you can do it. It's just, it's a lot, it's hard, but it will make you stronger, and it is possible. So yeah.
And keep advocating for yourself, because you know what's best for you and your family, and yeah, just don't give up, for sure. So that's our story. That's it. It's a long story. So we'll see you soon, baby girl.